Deze eerste aflevering van seizoen 2 van de onderwijspodcast Beyond Education gaat over de Summerhill School in Leiston Engeland. Summerhill staat wereldwijd bekend als een van de eerste democratische scholen ter wereld en bestaat inmiddels al meer dan 100 jaar. Democratisch onderwijs betekent dat de leerlingen een grote mate van vrijheid hebben in hun leerproces en dat de schoolgemeenschap gezamenlijk beslissingen neemt over regels en beleid.
Freedom in Summerhill, my school, is doing what you like so long as you don't interfere with somebody else.
De kernfilosofie van Summerhill is dan ook dat kinderen zelf verantwoordelijk zijn voor hun leren. Er zijn daarom geen verplichte lessen.
Of course, the thing that we haven't mentioned is they don't have to actually go. so the children that you see in the background have actually got classes, but they're not there because they're doing something better.
De leerlingen kunnen zelf kiezen of en wanneer ze aan lessen willen deelnemen. Het idee daarachter is dat kinderen het beste leren als dit voortkomt uit hun eigen interesse en motivatie en niet vanuit externe dwang. Geen podcast deze keer vanuit de studio. Want voor deze speciale editie reisde ik af naar het Engelse graafschap Suffolk en sprak daar op het terrein van de Summerhill School met schoolhoofd Zoe Reedhead over de geschiedenis van de school.
And he began to realize that education wasn't just about sitting in a desk learning.
De vooroordelen in de pers over Summerhill.
And I think the media's never quite understood that. They always want to make us look bad.
Wat de noodzaak is waarom scholen als Summerhill er altijd moeten zijn. En de enorme tegenwerking van de Engelse overheid in hun pogingen om de school te sluiten.
They issued us with something called a notice of complaint, which means if you don't abide with this, the school will be closed.
We zien archiefbeelden van de oprichter E.S. Neal. En ik sprak ook met haar zoon Henry, die daar nu docent is en als kind zelf op Summerhill zat. Deze aflevering van Beyond Education is een must-see voor iedereen met interesse in de geschiedenis van democratisch en alternatief onderwijs.
Beyond education. Beyond education.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
This is beyond education.
Neil was part of quite an exciting movement. You know, he started Summerhill as a private school. It's always been an independent school, and no government would fund a school like this. His vision was to allow children to make choices for themselves and live their own lives and not to have to just follow an academic route. I mean, remember, my father was a Victorian. He was born in 1883. So he came from a very, very rigid system in Scotland.
My father was a village schoolmaster in Scotland, and I spent 12 years teaching in state schools, so I know something about them.
Very repressive. You got beaten. Well, you did throughout the whole of England, actually, but at this particular time he was in Scotland. So what he saw made him very unhappy, and by doing his early teaching when he moved away from his father's school, he began to give the children just a little bit of extra freedom, so they would go for walks in the woods and they would spend time together. And he began to realize that education wasn't just about sitting in a desk learning.
Freedom in Summerhill, my school, is doing what you like so long as you don't interfere with somebody else.
He lived in a country village. He was teaching in a country village, and most of the children were going to be farm workers. They were going to be workers on the land. That was going to be their life, and yet he was sitting in a school having to beat children for not learning about history or geography or something, and he was thinking, you know, this isn't really relevant to them. It's better for them to be able to learn about things that are important to them, that they're going to actually use in their lives.
So I thought I'd start a school of my own, and this happened in 1921. It's a long time ago. And I started a school then where I said, now children will be free to be themselves. And let me elaborate that, you see. We've tried for generations to teach people how to live by religion, by morals, by politics. And there's been you only look around on the sick world today and you see it hasn't been much of a success. And one thing has never been tried, and that's freedom.
People wanting something better for their children, I think. People not wanting their children to be in a repressive system. And people who believe that children should have more freedom in their lives.
So I thought I must have a school where children are free, where their characters are molded, where they're free to live their own lives, without license. Put it concretely, if a boy doesn't want to study mathematics, it's nobody's business. If he wants to play a drum when other people are sleeping or studying, that's everybody's business, that's not allowed. So the first thing about the school was we had freedom without license.
So some people will come to us because they're desperate, because their children are having a terrible time at school and things are going wrong for them, and they feel like maybe if they come to Summerhill, the freedom will help their child to be happier.
Let's do it now.
Okay, guys.
Okay, what are we gonna play?
Sonic. I'll be Sonic.
I know, I'm Sonic.
I'm Sonic.
I'm Shadow.
Okay.
No, I'm Shadow.
Okay, well I'm Sonic. Okay.
I'm Shadow.
Sonic says
Your mama!
I think first of all there wasn't any specific sort of expectation of me. I was very relaxed to be myself and to make my own decisions and to follow my interests. I was someone who was very imaginative, and I would find myself playing in the woods and climbing trees and being in the world of imagination and playing with friends. That would have been a lot of the earlier parts of my time at Summerhill, playing and playing and playing.
Freedom to be yourself, not molded, freedom to play, and freedom in general.
Well, we've always been the school that the media loves to hate. I mean, throughout history, Summerhill has always been pilloried by the media, by the press particularly, but all of the media. It's made us a little suspicious, I have to say. But it's so easy to misunderstand Summerhill, and it's so easy to portray it in a way that people will misunderstand it. So people always are looking for something sensational about Summerhill, but actually you don't need to look for something sensational, because the very idea that children don't have to go to class is sensational enough. You know, the very idea of what Summerhill does is sensational, so you don't have to look for lewd stories about sex, drugs and rock and roll in order to make it an interesting story. And I think the media's never quite understood that. They always want to make us look bad.
We don't attach very much importance to academic education. We attach importance to living, being balanced, being free, being charitable, being tolerant. One or two parents grumbled to me that Summerhill makes the children too tolerant.
I discovered the interest, to a certain extent, of reading, and actually I learned. Well, not quite learnt by myself. I would access lessons, but I found a real interest in reading, specifically from books written by Stephen King. Horror books interested me very much, and I got a passion for reading. And that's I spent all my time reading books for a year or so.
I'm very glad. The biggest compliment I ever had in my life, I think, was a little boy of 7 who came, and he went home for a holiday, and his granny asked him all about the school, and he told him what they played at and so on. And then she said, "Is there anything else to tell you?" He thought for a bit. He says, "Yes, there's a chap called Neil there." I thought that was a very nice compliment.
I think because they've been able to release a lot of their inhibitions and problems, not problems because they're not problem children, but the things that young people go through, they've been able to work their ways through them rather than having to sit at a desk and just do exams. I think that they are perhaps much more fulfilled as people and feel a kind of sense of joy in life.
But there was never any expectation. You know, if I was doing something, if I was doing a lesson, if I wanted to then get up and put the work away and then and go off and play, then I could do that, or I could choose to come back and do it. You know, work through a workbook again, or so I was always. I guess there was no pressure. There was no expectation. There was no. There was no expectation of me to reach a certain level or to do a certain thing, and this is a very, very nice thing. I think I feel very lucky, really, that I managed to have such an experience as a child. I think.
We were inspected every year throughout the 90s. And most schools were inspected every 3 to 4 years. So we didn't actually realise there was anything wrong with that because we thought that's what happened. You get inspected every year. And they came, each time they came to try and tighten it up a little bit more. They were looking for standards. And when they look for standards, we aim for a standard at the end. So if the pupil is at Summerhill, we aim for them to reach the standard when they leave, where they can take their school leaving exams, which are GCSE in this country, and go on to college. But when the inspectors come, they want to monitor each age group of children. So 7-year-olds must be able to do this, 8-year-olds must be able to do this, and that doesn't work with Summerhill because we've discovered over our 100 years that children don't learn in the way conventional education thinks they should learn. They actually learn very differently. Issued us with something called a notice of complaint, which means if you don't abide with this, the school will be closed. And so when they issued us with the notice of complaint, I believe there were 6 different items on it, and we said we're not going to do almost all of those. I think they wanted a few extra toilets, and we were quite happy to do that. It's not an issue for us, but most of the things we were not prepared to do. So we got a very good lawyer who turned out to be just brilliant, and we went to court against the government. And on the 3rd day of the trial, they capitulated. They came to us and said, "Do you want to make a deal?" We said, "Okay." Anyway, we got an agreement basically out of this, which said that we could have an expert to follow the government inspectors when they come, and they could have an expert as well who were kind of impartial, and that the inspectors had to respect the views of the Summerhill meeting, and they had to respect the philosophy and methods of A.S. Neil, which means non-compulsory classes. So that was very good, and it worked for us for, 12 or 13 years, and then all of a sudden they retracted the whole deal. And we said, but you can't do that because it was ratified in court, and it was, we were there, and the judges ratified it in court. And they said, oh, we're the government, we can do what we want. In this country, we have the Office for Standards in Education is Ofsted, and they inspect all schools. But there's also one called the Independent Schools Inspectorate, and they are the people who inspect independent schools, which is what we are. And also, because it's the Independent Schools Association, they give a little bit more weight to the ethos of the school, the independent ethos of the school. So it's worked quite well for us. It's jolly hard work, but it has worked quite well for us so far.
As my interests changed, then I would follow them, and so I was very interested in music at times. I was very interested in nature at times. I was very interested in bird watching at times, and to a certain extent, I had the freedom then to follow those interests. As I got a bit older again, when I was about 14 or so, I would have interest in the community, and I was taking part very much in the meeting processes, and I was always taking part in the meeting process, but actually being a chairperson, or actually running a meeting, or being an ombudsman, or being a Beddies officer.
Well, you get up at, I don't even know the times, you get up at 8. If you don't get up, you can get fined by the Beddies officers. We had a group of people called Beddies officers who are elected by ballot, and they put you to bed and they get you up in the morning. And if you don't get up in the morning, you can get a fine for that, which could be a money fine, it could be a swimming pool ban in the summer, it could be back of the lunch queue, it varies. Lessons start at 9. And go on until lunchtime. We have a break mid-morning for a cup of tea, because we're English, of course we have a cup of tea. Go on till lunchtime, and then we start again, I think at 1:20, I can't quite remember. And then we run on until 3 o'clock. So that the classes go, as a conventional school actually, they go pretty much the same as a conventional school. But of course the thing that we haven't mentioned is they don't have to actually go. So the children that you see in the background have actually got classes, but they're not there because they're doing something better.
We have a community ruling. We meet on a Saturday night, the youngest and the oldest, everybody, and we make laws. And that's called self-government, and they make quite sensible laws.
I'd not propose. I'd like to ask people to stop throwing milk bottles all around the place after they've finished. Take them back to the shop where they bought their milk bottles. Especially Peter Dogan.
Can't we just ask Peter to return the milk bottles to the place where he buys them from? Because they need them, I think.
And I second that. And for all the other people as well, like Freya and Tubby and Johnny, who buy milk from that lady.
It's a very effective forum, because it becomes quite impersonal, and you're being judged by your peers, and it really makes you. It takes time with children sometimes, takes some more time with some children than others, but you really get a sense of, yeah, actually I was out of order, I shouldn't have done that, because all my friends are telling me that as well. How many people can go on the trampoline? How long if you want to go on the trampoline, how long notice you give someone to get off? I mean, they're all really little, unimportant things to you and I, but when you're, 9, they're really important. That's what I want to do. I want to get on the trampoline. How do I tell someone to get off because I want to turn? So they're all really important little things. And from a very young age, you can go to that school meeting and everybody in the meeting is going to listen to you, and you put your little hand up and you have a complaint and everybody's going to take it seriously and they're going to help you to deal with it. That teaches you so much about who you are and how important you are as a person. So then you don't get issues about, whether I'm female or male or black or white or anything else, because bring it on, I'm as good as anybody. This self-awareness is something that's really important that children gain from being at Summerhill. It's about their own importance and about feeling strong and good about themselves. So we, for instance, here, some of the girls came to me about 2 years ago and said, we ought to talk about equality between girls and boys. And I went, you don't have to talk about that because that's part of the course. That happens at Summerhill anyway, and it's been happening since the beginning. In the 1920s and the 1930s, Summerhill was already churning out strong, confident women who felt equal to anybody. We don't have to have lessons about classes about, you're as good as any man. You don't need that because you are because you live that life. And it's that kind of strength of character and that understanding of real equality. I mean, the equality here is so important because you really, really learn about your own importance.
I don't know what the future is, but I'd like to see it that way. But the children were completely free to go to lessons or stay away. After all, the lessons matter in life. And completely free to make their own laws and things like that. I'd like to see that. I don't know if it'll ever come. I want to live long to see. I wish I could. I wish I could live another 50 years or 1,000 years to see it. But
Beyond education. Beyond education.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
This is